evening. Thank you for coming to our forum on the North Olmsted recreation ballot issue. This is our second event of the pre-election season. Our first one was Tuesday at Porter Library on the District 16, State District 16. And if you look at the back page of your program, you will see that we are having another program on October 6th at Porter, and that is on the topic of the proposed changes to the Cuyahoga County Charter. At this time, I'm going to introduce our moderator, Joyce Schroth, a longtime member of our local Westlake North Olmsted chapter. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for being here. I'm especially pleased to see so many people in the audience. It shows a genuine interest that you have in learning more about this particular issue, as well as members of the North Olmsted City Administration that are comprising our forum for this evening. And last but certainly not least, my fellow League of Women Voters from the Westlake North Olmsted chapter. So thank you all for being here. I know that this will be a great and successful evening, and so let me just mention a couple things that I'd like you to be aware of. Mayor Kennedy is going to introduce the panel in just a moment or two, and so just so that you know the way that we work this evening, he will introduce the panel. They will have an opportunity to speak to you, and after that, we will welcome any questions that you might have that are written. We do have a league member who is passing out cards, and she's also going to pick those up. Those will go to screeners in the back of the room, and they'll make certain that I'm not going to get the same question 6 times. So that's a part of how we can kind of clarify the questions that are going to be asked this evening. I already have several, so we're off to a great running start. We're going to be here a while. Okay. And so, without further ado, I would like to introduce Mayor Kennedy. He is the mayor of the city of North Olmsted.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to start out by thanking the League of Women Voters for putting this together and the residents for coming out and hearing what we have to say. And also some of your questions that you'll be asking. With me, we have Finance Director Carrie Kopfer. We have Rec Director Betsy Drensky. And we have Assistant Rec Director Chris Wetmore. And I'm going to just start off by giving you a little bit of history of the Rec Center, in case you don't know it. The Rec Center was built in 1975, and back in those days it was state of the art of what a Rec Center was, and it had things like an ice skating rink. They actually built a toboggan run, which was soon tore down after it was deemed to be unsafe. So. The key point I'm making there is the Rec Center was built in 1975, most of which we still have a lot of the original stuff. And a lot of the original stuff is not anywhere near what you need to be a rec community. And the previous administration put together a rec plan in 2007, 2008, realizing that, hey, we need to make some changes. It wasn't well received by the residents because the residents like the fact that we have some of these things like an ice skating rink in there that really gives us, a unique and different character. And then there were some issues with the YMCA coming in. The residents really didn't like the rec program, along with the fact that the market had crashed in 2007, 2008. So that went away, but the need to upgrade and update our rec center did not go away. So when I became mayor, I took a good hard look at rec. I campaigned on the fact that the rec center is a viable rec center. We just need to improve it. And the residents believed in that. There was a lot of work to do. There was certainly a lot of work to do. And it started with changing the leadership of the rec center. We changed the leadership of the rec center, and that made all the difference in the world. Betsy and Chris do a heck of a job, along with the people that work over at the rec center. We appreciate that. And we needed to fix the foundation stuff. So we went to work on fixing chillers, roofs, air conditioning, dehumidifiers, things that you don't even see but need to be there to have a viable rec center. Once we did that, we figured out hey, we have a rec, we need a membership component to this rec center. And so we added fitness to the rec center. And when we added fitness to the rec center, more and more people showed up, and memberships keep going up and up and up. But that just proves this is a viable rec center, but we need to get to the next level. And what the next level is: state-of-the-art pools, basketball courts with volleyball courts, indoor tracks, things that every community that builds a rec center has. These aren't things that that I came up with. These aren't things that come out of the sky. These are things that a group of residents constructing a master plan said, hey, recreation is one of the most important things to a community. It's one of the most important things to us, and these are the things that rec centers have. And I think my time is well up, huh?
Okay.
But
I give you the rest of my time. Go ahead. No, keep going. We'll make up the time.
yeah, we got plenty of questions. We'll get through it all.
I'm here to talk about the financing plan. And as you know, we intend on needing, when we came up with the master plan, and it's a 5-year phased-in plan, we need $43,250,000. It was a higher amount in the May ballot, but the market was different and the interest rate was lower, so we had to make some soft cuts out of the budget because the interest rate is now projected to be at 4.75. So that's why we felt we wanted to commit to keeping it at 3.6 mils for the community. So that's why the numbers are a little different, but it comes out to the same effect. And the most important thing that I think people get confused about is that the 3.6 mils is based on the 2017 valuation, not the one that came out as your estimates for 2018. And what I mean by that is that it calculates what you need to borrow and pay down 24 years of debt of that $43,250,000. And so it determines an amount that you need. And so as the values go up, the effective millage rolls down, and it still stays at essentially the same dollar amount, which was $126 for a $100,000 home. So if your house was $100,000 this year on your tax duplicate, and it's projected to go to $120,000 next year, it's still only going to be $126, and then that millage effectively will roll down to, 3.3, 3.4, whatever it turns out to be. So it won't go up. Also, the other thing that's very fortuitous about the timing of this, well, besides that the economy is improving, is that we built this facility, the library, on our tax dollars as well, and all the taxpayers here, and it's 1.1 mils. And 2020, that comes off the tax duplicate. So there'll be 1.1 mils less that we'll be paying as a citizen as a whole, which is important. And then in 2024, fire station number 2, which is further down the street, comes off the tax duplicate, and that's another 0.4 mils. So in a very short order, the amount will, from 126, if you take those other 2 items off, would net it down to $73 approximately. Every home is valued a little differently, so take a dollar here or there. The other thing that I think people are a little confused by is that we have a 5-year plan, and it's over 5 years, and there's borrowing rules, there's federal tax laws and state laws that limit our ability to borrow if we're not going to spend that money within a certain amount of time. And there are certain exceptions, but we don't feel we're going to meet that. So we probably will have to borrow in 2 phases to equal that $43,250,000, because you have to at least expend 85% of what you borrow within the first 3 years. So we couldn't borrow it all, even though with the market going up, it might be better, but we don't think that we can do that. There may be a couple nuances, and once this passes, and we're already kind of looking and we're watching the market to see when that best opportunity is, but we're gonna do what's best for the taxpayers of the city and in the long term. So know that we have your best interests and our best interests at heart. Lastly, another part of the financing plan that I think is, I want everyone to understand, is that when you build an additional X number of square feet of rec center, which is fairly large, we are going to have additional operating costs associated with that. And we came up with a plan where we are going to go to the voters in the next 3 years and reallocate the existing income tax legislation. We're not looking for an increase, we're not looking for that, but we're gonna look for ways to reallocate it maybe somewhat less to the general fund and maybe the less to the solid waste fund to go to help support the operations of the rec center. Okay, and now we'll get into the details of the plan a little bit more.
So I'm going to talk about the actual plans to the rec center itself, what would change, and the specifics of what we would do if the levy were to pass at the rec center. The rec center itself, the building, the shape of it remains the same. We're not taking down anything. We're just going to add a few parts to it and rearrange a lot of the spaces inside of it. So our main areas and problem areas that have outlived their useful life are the rink and the pool. We have been able to, like the mayor said, replace the chillers and the water cooling tower for the rink, but the underground piping and the underground heating system and the thing that makes it actually be ice is well beyond its useful life. We actually spoke with someone today from an ice company, and 20, 30 years is an expected lifetime, and we're well over that with the rink that we have. So the first part would be to fix that rink area, to tear up the floor itself, and then the boards and the glass that goes with that. Our glass at the rink was reused from the queue when they renovated that well before my time here. So it's also lived its life many times, that glass that we have in the rink. So we are short in locker room spaces to meet the needs of the community we currently have in the ice rink. So where our admin offices are would become new locker room spaces to complement the rink area. Our pool is a 6-lane pool currently, and we provide everything from learn to swim, scuba lessons, competitive swim, high school swim, adult swim, water exercise, everything that you could put in the pool we do, and we manage to do that in a smaller space, but we end up leaving people out. We can't have open swim when we have the swim teams in. We can't have lap swim when we have learn to swim. We have 40 plus seniors doing their water exercise, and they're wall to wall. So what we do with this plan would to be build a 10-lane competition pool. That way we could have or lap swim while we had our swim teams in there. We could have 2 swim teams in early. The possibilities and scheduling is amazingly endless with that 10 lanes in there. Have larger bleachers so that we could host meets for revenue generating purposes. And the other part of it would be the leisure pool. The leisure pool would be the footprint of our current pool. Some of our renderings were confusing before, and people thought it would look exactly like that. It's just a rendering. We would like it. The idea is to make it accommodating everybody, from our tots to our seniors and everybody in between, with a 0 depth entry, so that it's accessible for everyone, and then enough space for that leisure time for learn to swim, for all of our water exercise, for some lap swim in that area, but space that everybody could use. It would be very open with glass doors, and it would look out to the outside and have availability for open air to come in. And unlike some of the pools that Chris and I have been to over the years, we've noticed when you had a competition going on in the 10-lane pool, you wouldn't be able to be in the leisure pool. So we would like that to be divided so that we could always still have that leisure area open, even if a competition was going on in the main pool. That's one of the things that we talked about designing in there. So where the footprint of the current pool is, the indoor and the outdoor pool, would become fitness. And we would move fitness downstairs to be able to spread it out a little bit more. We currently have the personal trainer in a storage room, that's their office. So it would give them a little more space and more opportunities to keep up with the trends that happen in fitness. Brad does a great job with adding in all the things that we have, but we're outgrowing the space, so we'd like to be able to expand that and add new things. One of the main things we get asked for is a walking track, and so an indoor walking track would go around the fitness area, as Chris is demonstrating for us. And the other main addition besides the aquatic center would be 4 basketball courts. We currently use the schools for all of our basketball programs, and it's a stretch for them and for us to accommodate everything. We have hundreds of kids that want to play basketball. We have deleted our adult program because there's just nowhere to put them. We used to have a pretty thriving men's program when the old middle school was here, but there's no more space for them. So we would like to be able to host those programs in-house, not to say that we still wouldn't work with the schools, but to be able to work together and have more spaces for their programs and our programs. And then also, once those were accommodated, for revenue generating, to have tournaments. And we would make that very multi-purpose as well, with basketball, volleyball, whatever we can put in there to make it the most useful space. And then outside the pool, there would be a splash area, a new playground in the back next to it. And then, and Chris will explain, but there would be 2 baseball fields put into the back of the rec center. And he can explain that when we get to the parks. The other big piece of this at the rec center is a walking path around the whole facility. Something we've talked with the residents over on that side of the property. We want to retain trees. It would be something that would not affect that property as much as possible. We're Parks and Rec, we like trees, and we have no intention of cutting trees down that that don't have to come down. But it would be a nice path to go all the way around. We have a lot of people right now that run our property as it is, and it would be nice to give them a safer path to do so. And then the big piece at the end would be the parking lot. If you've been to the rec, you know it's somewhat safe. It's a way that you have to walk through the cars. This would maintain a different pattern, and then also be storm water friendly with bioswales and trees, and better access to the rec center to get in. So that is the highlights of what's at the rec, and I'm gonna let Chris talk about the parks.
Thank you very much. So what we'll do, we'll start at North Olmsted Park, and we'll start from the north end. Where you were at, Betsy? You can go back to the north end there. Currently, there's Diamond number 5 is a baseball field down there. Diamond number 5 is, those of you who are aware, with the hot stove and the high school. It's down at the bottom of the park, and all the rain travels down there, and it's very difficult for us to maintain that in the spring, especially with all of the water that we do get down there. So it gets rained out quite frequently. So the intent would be to put a football field in there, or just a large grass area, which we could turn into a football field or a soccer field, a multi-purpose field, but which would allow for green space to be down there. Also down there, we would relocate the existing gazebo from the top of the park, and we would bring that down to the bottom of the park there to allow for rentals in a larger green space without playgrounds by it and noise and whatnot. You can have a wedding potentially, or some type of event down there. Also, real quick down there, we would add some additional parking at the bottom of the park there, and we would finish off the parking lot that we did, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago. We fixed the parking lot that was by the basketball courts and the volleyball courts, and we would continue that same design throughout, making accessible pathways throughout. And you'll hear us speak heavily on the safety and ADA accessibility throughout all of the renovations that we would like to do. Because currently at any ball field at North Olmsted Park, it is very difficult, if you're in a wheelchair or if you have a disability, to get to see your child or your grandchild play a sport. So we would like to bring sidewalks to all of the fields, and then seating areas for persons with disabilities. Moving up towards the park, we would, like I said, finish that parking lot there. We would also redo the infield of all 3 of the existing baseball fields that are going to stay there in order for proper drainage, to enhance them, to be able to make sure that they are in top condition. We would also be replacing the backstops and creating dugouts, and again, ADA accessible pathways to those with new bleachers as well. So all 3 fields would get that treatment. Moving up through the park, the top of the park, as you move towards the senior center, Since we are moving the gazebo down to the bottom of the park, we would like to install a band shell, which would be able to have all of the amenities that the gazebo does, as well as being able to host movies in the park, as well as concerts in the park. The Dover Players could have a place to play. So all of those things, we would put those right where existing field diamond number 3 is. So we would eliminate that field as well. So 2 of the fields would get eliminated from North Olmsted Park, Field 5 and Field 3. And we would be adding those, like Betsy said earlier, to behind the Recreation Center, which would allow us to run games constantly when we need to, and which would take some stress off of them, as well as accommodating more and more requests. So as far as baseball fields go, so the existing one at the top, and then diamond number 2, which currently has the lights, those will get the same treatment as diamond number 4. We will be adding parking to the sides, because we want to try and eliminate the dangers that is parking on North Park, on West Park, on East Park, on the sideways parking. So we'll be adding quite a bit of parking to the top, right by the playground pavilion, as Betsy's pointing, and then over by diamond number 2, which would also have new restrooms at the top there by diamond number 2, and renovating the current existing restrooms that need to be renovated down closer to diamond number 4. A walking track would be completed throughout the entire park. Our current loop is just that little loop as Betsy's pointing at, but we will create a path that would go with the entire length of the park in a circular. And then the playgrounds, all of the playgrounds, as many of you have seen, we had to eliminate our 2 to 5 year old playground this year because it was failing and it was a danger. So we had to eliminate that. So we are currently 1 playground down. We would like to put all new playgrounds in there. As Betsy said, the useful lives of those are coming to the end. So that was a brief synopsis of what we're doing at North Olmsted Park. Really quickly, at Barton and Bradley, we would like to renovate the restrooms out there. The fields are in great shape out there. NOSO, along with our service department, does a great job in keeping those up and running. But one of our biggest safety issues that we have is the pathway to the housing development and to the street. So we want to make sure that we new sidewalk in that goes all the way to Barton and all the way to the housing development back there as well. And then you'll notice, and if any soccer fans or any children have gone through soccer, know that the parking out there has never been anything to speak of. So we would like to pave parking lots in those 3 areas there, going behind the dog kennel and Trudy's place. Briefly, that's it. That's a touch what we do at Barton and Bradley. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so a lot to digest. If you are new or unfamiliar to this particular issue, I would like to remind you that in your program, there is a website after October 11 that you and or anyone that might be interested in watching this particular presentation again may do so. It's put on by the League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland. So just something so much available to us this evening, and would like to encourage you and your neighbors to make sure that you have all the information that is being presented this evening. Some of the questions that I was given, I noticed likely were in perhaps small part, maybe large part already responded to by those that presented, but I just think it's really important that we look at all of these questions, and so we're going to do so. And the first one's very general, and again, what I'm doing, none of the questions that I have in front of me are specific to the mayor, the director, or any of the commissioners, so we'll ask the mayor to direct who he would like to respond to. First one, how were the proposed changes determined?
I'll start responding to that. As I mentioned in my opening statement, this is part of a master plan proposal to which the residents came up with a master plan and decided that recreation is one of the most important things in this community. And it's not really rocket science to figure out what we need. You can look at other communities and say, hey, what do they have? State-of-the-art pools with 0 depth entry for our young children and our seniors. We don't have that, and that pool, our pools are now 45 years old, really on their last leg, along with our ice rink. We would not get rid of the things that other places have, or that other places don't have, like an ice rink, because that's part of what we feel North Olmsted is about. We're a big ice community, and the ice does very well. It just needs to be replaced underneath and the boards. That's all that needs to be done. So this plan was put together by the people, and will be brought to the people.
Very good, thank you. Second question, what will the impact of an improved rec center have on the city's tax base?
I'll answer that question because, first of all, I'll tell you, when I became mayor, I took a look at the city and I said, our most important, our biggest issue as a community, forget about city and schools and county, our biggest issue is the schools, is the middle school. And the schools put together a program which was an awesome proposal. It was a high school, middle school, combined campus, which went to the voters, and the voters said, hey, you did your homework, you put together a plan, and we voted for it. We're willing to spend our money on a good plan. We did the same thing with this rec center. And I'll tell you, as much as values have gone up, they're going to continue to go up. And the other thing that's important to know is that our financial situation in North Olmsted is great. When I took over the office of mayor, we were laying off people, we were struggling, everyone, now we're hiring people. Our debt service has gone down dramatically to where we used to, at the beginning of the year, have $7.5 million in debt service. Now we have 3.5, and in 2021 we will have $1.5 million at the start of the year. Imagine that in context of your own house. If you dropped your house payment in half and then half again. So financially, we're doing great. And what I mean to say by that is there's nothing else coming up. I have nothing else. This is the most important thing that the city can do that we can't handle. The rest of it we can handle.
Thank you. A little bit of a follow-up on that with our next question. Do you feel now is an appropriate time to propose this levy after the addition of the new school, given 2 more school levies will be proposed, one for safety and security, followed by operations?
I don't know that that's happening. Who wrote that question? They know more than I do. I have not heard that there is a
Westlife article over the summer that said that the school board was looking at proposing levies, that there would be school levies for safety and security followed by operations.
Yeah, they voted down the safety and security one. They're meeting with us right now,
Okay.
and we're working with cities and schools together to meet that. Look,
Okay.
I mean, this is besides the high school, middle school, this is the single most important thing you can do in your community. By the way, my kids, I have 5 kids in the high school, middle school, 5 kids in the high school, and more coming. Not anymore coming.
I was going to say, what are you trying to say, Mayor?
Let me rephrase it. And what I'm telling you, as important as that is, my kids will probably get more use out of that rec center during their lifetime than they will the high school, middle school. That's how important it is. And it's incredibly important to your housing values. There'll always be operational levies going on or thought about going on. That's always going to happen. That doesn't mean you make your decisions based on that, because if you did, you'd never do anything. What I can tell you as a city is financially, we're in very good shape, and we're going to continue to move in very good shape. I've run multi-million-dollar companies my whole entire adult life. Let me tell you, this is the worst one I've ever run. Just because, it's tough being in government. But we are financially in great shape, and we'll continue to be in great shape. I have nothing else to bring to you. This is it, okay? As far as roads go, we're going to continue to step up our roads program. As far as detention, retention issues, we're going to continue to work on that so we don't experience flooding issues. All that I've got handled, okay? I should say we've got handled. But this is the one thing we can't handle that is so important to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Looks like we're continuing with another levy question. Will the library and fire ask for levy renewals?
I think I can answer this question. No. The levy, first of all, the fire department was to build a fire station. You guys voted on it to build a fire station. It's built, and it'll be paid for in, I think, 2024. The library, same thing, built and paid for in 2021.
Right, and the operations of the Cuyahoga, this library, are through the Cuyahoga County Public Library, they pay for all the operations and then the maintenance of the building as well.
Yeah, and I can just tell you, there is nothing else that's coming before the city that I'm going to have to go to the voters for. And I think that's important when you're voting on this to say, well, hey, Mayor, what's around the corner? All of a sudden you're, getting us to vote for this, and then, next election cycle, hey, we need this, we absolutely need this. There is nothing else. This is it. This is the most important thing. And look, I could probably throw something in front of you that might cost you $75, but it doesn't solve your problem, okay? I'm going to solve this problem. And if it costs $126 for $75, well, I'd rather have my problem solved for a few extra dollars. That's the right thing to do. By the way, I'm here for a blink of an eye, and so are you. It's important that we make good long-term decisions, because North Olmsted will be here for a lot longer than we will be. And my kids will be experiencing the rec center, and my grandkids who aren't born will be experiencing the rec center. And by the way, people that are coming into this community and looking for a house, we've got some incredibly affordable housing that's going up and up and up, and this rec center plan will keep it going up.
Very good, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
That was the last levy question, but we still have another money issue question. How much, if anything, do all the businesses in the city contribute in the way of taxes?
Well, I might as well let you take it.
As far as property taxes, is that the,
I would,
okay, because I think property taxes, the businesses contribute about 1/3 of the total property tax we collect.
That's correct. So in other words, if that question is correct, the business community, they don't have a vote on this. They'll be contributing 1/3 of the amount. It's great. So let me put it in better terms. Imagine if you lived in Bay Village, where it's a bedroom community, and they had to do this all through homeowners' values. It would be a really tough thing to do, because it would cost a lot of money. But the businesses here, which are very stable and growing and doing well, and we can tell from our tax base, will be on the line for 1/3 of it. And property values in North Olmsted, from a business standpoint, are moving and shaking, and that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
very good, thank you. So now there are a couple of questions that are a little more specific, perhaps, to the ages of those that might be participating. The first one is, why isn't the skate park included in the plans? This will be included in the 2020 Olympics, and we are the only city currently with something that will only generate more interest.
I'm going to pass that down to the people that actually run the rec center and have to deal with the skate park.
Like a lot of the amenities at our rec center, the skate park also has been there a while. It was put there without necessarily the best space-wise. It's in a spot that's hard to get to, and we've experienced over the years, I've been here 18 years now, tremendous amount of vandalism in that space. We could paint that pavilion every day and there would still be very inappropriate graffiti the next day. You can check with my friendly police fellows that we spent a whole summer with tremendous amount of vandalism back there. I'm a fan of skateboarding. We spent a lot of time with Rayanne working on the skate park. We did the skate-iversary for 10 years back there. It would need to be something new and redone with what's back there. I know that they've added some ramps in there. There's great new, better skate park versions out there. It's something that we could look into, maybe at a different park or in the future. But to put the pool there would be able to accommodate anybody who could go, can come to our pool. The skate park is very specific to a very small group of people. Swimming is also in the Olympics, and that's what we want to put there. We're not against skateboarding. I think we could find another avenue for it, but at this time, to be able to accommodate people in the pool from age 0 to 100, that would be a better use of our space and in that area. So that's why. And the pool already, with the water line coming in and what they looked at wise, it has to go there. It makes the most sense for us to put it there instead of moving it on the other side of the building. Or we don't have the footprint either. So it's to maximize the amount of people served.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is kind of, you responded a little bit to it when you said swimming from 0 to 100 years old, because the question is, what in this proposal makes it something a retired senior citizen can support?
Yep, go ahead. Okay, the pool would be one of them. The walking track, the fitness area, We have a great following with our seniors in our Silver Sneakers program. Even if you're not in Silver Sneakers, 'cause it's not available to everybody, we've managed to do a Get Fit program that anybody can participate in. We have 40 plus people using that program right now, and they're exercising in the concession stand. We have taken all of the chairs and tables out of our concession stand in order to accommodate that class. I'd like to build a room for them. This would be there, a real exercise room with a real floor that they could have that class in. So the classes are amazing. We have chair yoga, stretching, from very active to very sedentary, whatever version you can do or want to do. So to be able to expand those programs, we have some great fitness pieces upstairs for any ability. It's amazing to see the seniors that are coming right now and what more we could do for them in this program. The walking track indoors, the walking track outdoors, and the pool. And even if you're not an avid swimmer, I'm not an avid swimmer, but I would love to go into a pool that I could just walk into with my kids, or with seniors, with your grandchildren, or to be able to use that water therapy is certainly something that anybody could use. So I think there's a lot for seniors, and the things that we would do to the park, the green space, the walking past of the park, the ability to have community events out there, that's for everybody. So we're looking to cover everybody in this plan.
And let me add to that too. I mean, you see we have two pools that can be used year round, and sometimes we get we have a problem with the current rec center because the kids that swim like the pool cold, the seniors like it hot. We won't have that problem anymore because we'll have two separate pools doing separate things. So I mean, there's just this is a rec center from tiny tot to senior, you know, and that's what we're looking for, because if you're a senior, you may not be here for the maybe you move on, but the person that buys your house is going to want these amenities, and that's important to know.
Right. Can I just add one
Please.
thing? I don't know that when you were talking about it, we have very limited classroom space, and a lot of the class for meetings and classrooms, and I think that this new plan helps address some of those shortcomings that we have in a building that is 43 years old.
Yeah, like I said, new exercise spaces, new meeting spaces. We do some wellness programs now with our seniors, and it's limited. Brad is running bingo in a room with 20, and we could have 30 come. So there was just other activities that we could do with better spaces to put them in. So.
Excellent, thank you all. Next question, will there be adaptive play type equipment for children with special needs? Example, a swing for the wheelchair and a swimming area.
Chris and I spent a lot of time looking at playgrounds. We were just at a conference, and the things that are out there now for every type of need. We looked at a display that had panels, and they were just different colored panels, and I said, what is this for? And it said just sensory panels to walk through, and the light shines through, and different shapes and things to look at and to touch. There's a lot more out there than just the ramps that we have now that aren't even really that accessible. So I'm excited and thrilled to be able to say if we were to get a playground, it would be so much more inclusive than we have now. In swimming, that zero depth area would be accessible to anybody, and we would make sure there was certainly we've talked with a couple patrons very closely with wheelchair access and how we can make that work for them and make sure that that's accommodated in the pool plan. Not just that chair that's sitting there, but be able to actually roll wheelchairs in or have one available that was water-based and have those types of things. So what's out there in playgrounds is amazing and well beyond what we have now, and I hope that we can bring it here.
And I touched on a little bit earlier, right? What we're doing at the park and what we're doing at the recreation center is mainly focusing on ADA accessibility, as well as adults being able to get to see their kids and whatnot. And Betsy and I, we just did come back from a conference. There are some amazing wheelchair swings, as you said, that we would love to add to the new playground. So absolutely, we would definitely accommodate that.
Very good, thank you all. What is the timeline after the pool and rink, fitness, etc.?
When we did the timeline for the May election, we identified the timeline of the rink and the pool being the most highest need, in that their age and keeping them running much longer will be tough. So those did come up first. the next thing that we wanted to see happen was the playground. It bothers us that we don't have that 2 to 5 year old playground out there, so that would come next. The pool would be built while the other pool, as long as we can keep it running, would still be running. Once the new one would be open, then we could work on the fitness space. So the old pool would be closed, work on fitness in that new area, move fitness downstairs, and then I think the offices and meeting rooms, that kind of falls into place. The parks, it's phased out over 5 years, but yes, the pool and the rink would be first, next the playground, and then it all kind of just fits into pieces so that we're not shutting down any one area necessarily at all. The rink would have to be shut down, obviously, and that would have to be timed seasonally. The season of skating is September through February, so we wouldn't want to do it then. It would need to happen after that. So that timing would have to play into that as well.
But with this, we can do things concurrently. So we can do things at the recreation center and at the park at the same time. So we can still keep both of those open. So we don't want to hamstring ourselves and not be able to accommodate our current members. So we want to be able to keep open. And like Betsy said, the only thing that we would need to shut down and not have available to people while we are doing it is the ice rink, because it is in the same footprint.
I forget, what is the amount of time that would be shut down? 3 months?
I've heard 3 to 4 months is a term that the rink people have given me. I would expect that they could do the floor in the 3 to 4 months, but the rest of it, the lockers and all that, I think would take longer. But as some ice skating people know, as long as we could get people back on the ice and they could skate, not worry about they could work around the locker rooms and those other things, as long as they can be on the ice, we can work with that.
And currently we shut down the rink, every so often for a month, just to drop the ice and fix some of the issues that are underneath it. So that occasionally happens, not every year, but
No.
We kick it.
out of fear, not every month.
How will the operation of the facility be affected during construction?
That's kind of the
The
same.
same thing, we would keep everything open as much as possible. That pool could be built without it wouldn't affect you at all as you were coming into the current pool, because it's on that back space. The skate park would be affected, the back playground would be affected as that pool is being built. Obviously, when we get to the end, the parking lot would be, but by then everything else would be completed. When we build the basketball courts, that's going to be out the front. So our access may change as it did when we built the fitness center. We had to come in different doors every once in a while, but other than that, I don't see anything shutting down besides the rink. When we would move the fitness equipment downstairs, maybe a couple days to get that set up, maybe a week or two, but at best, I think that would be the only. Obviously, there would be construction going on, but I think we can still provide most of what we're providing now as best we can.
Very good, thank you. A couple more questions that have to do with money, not levy. What are the current recreation center member fees, and will they change after the improvements to the facility?
Current, there's a lot of different memberships. We're very flexible. We have daily rates, monthly rates, annual rates, seniors, students, adults, residents, non-residents. So there's about 12 different rates that I'm not going to memorize for you, but an average adult pass for a year is $180. A senior pass is $120 for a year. So when we put those rates together, we looked at probably every rate of every rec center in a 20-mile radius, and we spent hours and hours and hours trying to make sure that it was a fair rate. We also realized that you can go to Planet Fitness for $10 a month and what they offer and what we offer, and we worked very hard on that. Ideally, we don't raise the rates. The mayor has said over and over again, and we've talked with council at length to make sure that if the residents are paying this tax, and that is reflected in that membership rate. So I can't say that whether this levy passes or not, we wouldn't have to raise rates a little bit in 5 years or 10 years. So we don't have an exact dollar rate to say it'll be $175 in 5 years, but we would keep it as low as possible, take into consideration that residents are paying more than a non-resident, and our non-resident rates would change. Those would definitely have to go up, and we would just keep it in range with.
Right, I think it's important to note that, yeah, our non-resident rates will go up, and there's a lot of reasons why if I'm a non-resident, I want to be part of the North Olmsted Rec Center, because first of all, my kids do gymnastics or they do ice skating, and I got to go to North Olmsted anyway, so why not have a membership at North Olmsted? I got to watch my kids swim or ice skate. I might as well go up and work out for an hour and come down and watch them. So we have a unique rec center that we want to keep the uniqueness of it, but add the things that normal rec centers have. And you could be assured that our rec center membership will double once we have the things that people most want. And I think we've proved that by just putting the fitness in there, and memberships have grown and grown and grown. And we just know that, and people have told me, well, once you get basketball courts, everyone's going to be here. Once you get volleyball courts in those basketball courts, they'll be full all the time. And then you'll have communities, which we still accept memberships to, people coming in from Olmsted Falls or wherever that don't have rec centers. Those people are going to want to be part of this rec center. And I've been told by residents that, look, I have a relative that lives in North Olmsted, but they go to Fairview because they have the amenities that we don't have, and those people will be back.
Very good, thank you. Earlier, Director Kopfer and Commissioner Drensky, you mentioned about meeting rooms as part of this plan. And so the question is, how much will you charge for meeting rooms?
We currently charge $25 an hour, so.
Yeah, I imagine that'll stay the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any issue if it stays the same? Any answer? Okay, and this is a very specific one. You did address the parking earlier in your comments. Question is, will the parking lot affect those on West Ranch View?
Well, fortunately, we have someone here on West Ranch View, aren't you, or on Ranch View?
I live on Timber Cove.
Timber
and I'm
Cove,
very
but you
close
go
to
right
it,
down.
yes.
Can I talk?
Yeah.
Planning Director Kim Weaver and I spoke at length with this about a week or two ago. We met with a neighbor whose property backs right up into our property, and the parking lot is still remaining mostly in its parking lot footprint as it is. It will go out a little bit further, but we talked at length about the lighting was our concern. I know the Gamley parking lot has a lot of bright lights. We're not building a car lot. We're not trying to advertise the cars in there. We're trying to make it safe for you to walk. So we discussed at length lights that would have blinders, per se, is lack of a better term, to shine that light down onto the sidewalk where we need it. We're not looking to shine out at those houses. We want to preserve as many trees as possible in that barrier. We don't want to see them any more than they want to see us. We want to keep that the way it is and keep it wooded. So the parking lot will be bigger so that we can accommodate everything, and safer and more appropriate with the trees and the drainage that it'll provide in that plan. But it's I would say, have minimal effect on those neighbors.
And if I could add to that, the technology nowadays with lighting has come in great strides, and they could light an ant on the ground if they wanted to and not have any effect on anyone. So I'm sure that when we do get to that part of the renovation, we will make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure that we're not being intrusive to any of our neighbors.
And we did ask that neighbor on West Ranch View. She had several questions. We met for an hour or so, and we did invite her neighbors to come and meet with us again. So if anybody on West Ranch View wants to meet with me or Kim and discuss any more specifics on that parking lot, we're welcome to do that. So.
And if I could add to that, I mean, it's important to realize that if the levy passes, we've got a lot of planning to do. And when we go to Barton and Bradley and plan Barton and Bradley, we're going to ask the neighbors around there to be part of that. When we go to the rec center, we're going to ask people that border that to be part of that conversation. It's very important. And same thing with the park, North Park, East Park, West Park. Those people need to have buy-in, and they live there, and they're better able to tell us sometimes the way they're feeling and what's good for them than us telling them what's good for them.
We talked at length also with her about barriers, about fences versus mounds versus trees, tall trees, short trees. So there's a lot to go into that, but we will need to look at there's water that goes through there. So there's a lot to determine once we get to it and to make the best decision for those neighbors.
Right. And recognize that these are conceptual drawings. They are not exactly what we're getting. So there's room for change.
Right.
Thank you. Just a point of interest for those that are either in the room or especially those that might want to watch the video later. If they're not able to see as well as we would like them to the renderings, will those be posted somewhere else? And you mentioned visiting with a resident. What response could we give the residents that you could offer them to learn more if they so choose?
If you go to our website.
We also have 2 more events. On Saturday, Chris and me and our staff will be at the park to walk through the park from 10 to noon. We're meeting at the Senior Center patio, and we have points around the park to actually show you and walk and talk instead of just on that little piece of paper. So that's one of our events this coming weekend. On Monday night, we'll be at the community cabin, and we'll go through all the plans again in detail, can ask more specific questions, come up and look at them. On October 9th, we'll have an open house at the rec center from 5:30 to 7:30. It'll be in the concession stand. We have these boards and additional boards, and you can walk through and look at each one. We'll have staff stationed there so that you could ask specific questions. If you call me, just let me know you're coming. I'm glad to sit down with anybody at any time as well.
And we already have sat down with a lot of our pool users, especially our adult or our seniors in the pool that did use the for aqua aerobics. So we would welcome anyone, any group that would like to sit down with any individual. Give us a call. We'd be more than happy to.
And also recognize that on the city's website, www.north-olmsted.com, and you go to the departments and you go to Parks and Recreation, all the plans are on there as well.
Very good, thank you. It appears as though I might have one final question, unless one comes up quickly. How will the revenue generated from swim teams, basketball membership, etc. be spent? Will it be used to pay down the debt or for operations?
It can't be used to pay down the debt. I mean, you're building the rec center. It'll be used for operations. And we're going to need the extra money for operations, obviously. I have no doubt that that revenues, or that we should have twice as many people coming in that rec center. Revenues will be up, but expenses will be up. Rec centers are never, this giant money maker, but they're so important to the community.
And the tax is what's going to pay the debt service down. So the monies will be available for operations to help defray some of the increases in operations that we're going to have as well.
Very good, thank you.
And also I would add, I mean, 5 years from now we'll need new nets or volleyball, whatever. So the revenues can go to that too. I mean, they'll go to the ongoing expenses of it.
Thank you. We've had quite a few questions, and we've had all good answers, I think. Sounds like there's a variety of ways in which your residents, the voters, may find out additional information should they so choose. So we would admonish you to look to your elected officials and those who are employed by the city that know more about this issue than anyone else will be able to answer that with you. I've enjoyed being the moderator this evening. Thank you to League of Women Voters. Mayor Kennedy will give some final remarks, after which League of Women Voters Westlake, North Olmsted, Jean will close this event. Thank you.
Good. I really want to thank the residents for coming out here. Again, we can answer any questions. We have so many meetings. We've already had a lot of meetings the last time this went on the ballot. And so any questions you might have, please come talk to me. I'm available anytime. Same with anyone, Carrie and the people from the rec center. Stop in if you don't think of a question now, but think of it later. Please ask it. You can email it. Give me a call. Stop in. We're more than happy to answer any questions. Again, this is such an important endeavor for this community. Again, we were one of the first ever to have rec, and we were probably state-of-the-art back then, but we've fallen behind since, and it's just time for us to catch up. And again, thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you to Carrie, Betsy, and Chris, and again, thank you for everyone for coming out today.
And don't forget to vote.
In closing, I'd like to thank our 4 panelists for a very informative presentation. Sounds like you're spending a lot of evenings meeting with the public, and this is very important to you. Also, I'd like to thank Joyce for a great job as moderator and our other League of Women Voters volunteers. Before you leave, I would like to refer you to page 2, where you have a list of information sources for voting information this election season. starting with our vote411.org, which is the League of Women Voters online voter guide. And you can see more information on the internet, our website, and also we have some information in the back on our table. Again, thanks to everyone.